drag show for children that was arguably family friendly. So a drag show at a Dallas area gay bar over the weekend is causing a stir and discussion over whether or not kids should be around drag events. It's the latest in a storied battle. Viral videos circulated on Monday appear to show a few children with adult guardians at a club while a drag queen danced to an Ariana Grande song. The event, held at the Mr. Club in Cedar Springs, Texas, was called...
Can you, while he's talking, look up Mr. Club in the background?
Held at the Mr. Club. No, it is. He said right there, it's a gay club. They said it was a gay club.
That kids were at?
I don't think you're going to get the wholesome versions. You'll probably get like...
The kids were at a gay club.
Yes, right. In the very first sentence, a drag show at a Dallas area gay bar. And that gay bar was called Mr.
And so the parents had to have brought the kids, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on the same page.
Yep. Club in the Cedar Springs, Texas was called Drag Your Kids to Pride and was advertised as a family-friendly edition of its weekly drag queen brunch event, NBC News explains. Let's read a couple more paragraphs and let's dive into it. The event was met with protesters outside the venue, and many took issue with a neon sign seen behind the dancers reading, "It's not gonna lick itself." Yes. Protesters held signs reading, "Stop grooming the kids."
Right. Isn't this Pride Month?
Yes.
Okay, Gene being dangerous, y'all.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger.
Okay.
I'm not being dangerous. I didn't tell them to do this.
Gene being dangerous.
We're gonna wait till after Pride to talk about this.
I got my boy back. He want all the smoke. Let's get it.
The event was met with protesters outside the venue, and many took issue with a neon sign behind the dancers reading, "It's not gonna lick itself." Maybe I'll try to find like a still and put that in the edit after this so they can see. Like, y'all need to see. Like, there was actually a green neon sign that said that in the back of the whole. Like, y'all just gotta see.
That should be the thumbnail for
this.
They
left
topic.
that on with the kids. They should have turned that shit off. Man.
Yep, it was bright and it was big.
They should have turned it off.
They should have turned it off. Stop grooming the kids. LGBTQ plus news outlet Them reports Mr. did not immediately respond for comment. On Monday, Texas Rep. Brian Slatton, Republican of Minola, said he will reduce legislation that will ban minors from drag shows. In a letter, Slatton called parents who take their kids to events with drag queens, quote, perverted adults, who are, quote, obsessed with sexualizing young children. Several non-Texan Republican leaders spoke out about the event, including Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, if I'm saying that right, the latter of whom urged taking children to church. Meanwhile, LGBTQ and equality advocates have condemned Slatton's comments as targeted harassment. In a statement to the Advocate, Equality Texas CEO Richard Martinez said in part, quote, in a state that has a history of being openly hostile towards LGBTQ plus people, drag shows have been creating safe places for our community for nearly a century. As early as the 1930s, there was a thriving drag scene in San Antonio. They're not trying to get rid of drag shows. They're just saying you can't take kids to drag shows. Like, I don't see the threat here, or like how is he threatening the trans community or drag shows? He's just saying no kids should come to this. Like, it's an extreme measure or extreme reaction to this. I acknowledge that, but also the reaction to this is also extreme.
No, it is.
So
I guess you're pulling up to see cars race.
All right, so I guess the first question to get this conversation started is, how do y'all feel about children being observers of drag events, specifically the dancing, not the cars?
Duck.
Well, I was reading the next part because the next part they say like, oh, you're so eager to introduce legislature that will stop drag shows, but nothing about gun laws, considering the mass shooting. That's an interesting argument there.
I personally think that's a leap. That's a false equivalency. I honestly don't see how that relates.
Well, it's just implying that the lawmakers are
quicker to make laws against trans.
They're quicker to prioritize a different attack. You know what I mean? Than guns.
I guess I get it, but the reason why I don't is just because they can't. It's a lot harder for any kind of legislation against guns because guns is our Second Amendment right. It would be unconstitutional if they did any kind of ban, restrictions, laws. Like, it would be very difficult for that to happen. Whereas there's no constitutional rights for. I guess gay person. You could make the argument, obviously, by your constitutional, but there's nothing specifically. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't really make a proper argument for it. But as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing specifically in the Constitution that gives gay people, or not gay, I'm sorry, drag shows the right to perform to kids when it's a sexual event. I would argue, in my opinion, drag shows, it's a sexual event. Like, even if you make it family friendly, at the end of the day, your content is very sexual.
I think it depends on like the content though, man. Because
Have you seen the videos?
I know what drag shows are, but I'm saying like if they're trying to tone them down, like there's a chance they're just fashion shows. Like you take kids to pageantry all the time.
I have a problem with pageants because that's another thing people are pointing out. Like, if you have a problem with this, you should have a problem with child pageants.
Yeah, because that's the other thing about it.
Yeah, fair.
I mean, for like little girls and stuff like that get put into pageants, or even little boys, I mean, it's essentially a drag show. You're watching them really kicked up and walking down on an aisle and coming back.
Don't they?
I don't know if they're necessarily doing
yep.
like.
I saw some pictures, which is crazy.
I think they even have like a talent portion in pageants where like the little kids have to perform and dance and sing.
Yeah, John just said like they got to get in swimsuits sometimes. Like, yes, like they get in swimsuits, sometimes they dance. Bro, it's creepy, bro. It's fucking weird. But my whole issue with this is, instead of condemning what happened with drag shows and children shouldn't be there, immediately everyone's trying to say, well, what about this? What about that? It's all so bad. Why can't you condemn this before you try to do another equivalency? Like, yeah. I don't know. Like, I agree. The pageant thing is definitely an issue, but the topic of conversation is this drag event.
Well, people are just comparing, sizable issues so they can make like a skeptical decision. You know what I mean? Because they're just like, okay, wait, if I'm gonna be like, you know what I mean? It's a moment of introspection where it's just like, if I'm gonna act purely out of emotion on this one moment because I'm upset because it was at a bar that was gay, or let me compare it to other things in my life that are similar and see if I should be upset about it or not. That's why they're bringing up the debate. And so like if you really think about it in pageants, then yeah, I mean, if it's toned down to the level of a pageant, then I'm kind of not as upset about it. But the fact that they're doing it in a gay bar and leaving neon lights like that up, or even alcohol out and stuff like that, like that's a little different. I mean, even if like it is a family friendly show, like are there people also drinking there with them and stuff like that?
Well, that's
like,
why I asked you
like
if you've seen some of the videos that have come out.
No, that's why I said. Like,
yeah, dude,
that's why I said I have to watch.
They were literally they let the kids put dollar bills in their pants area. Obviously, I don't know if it's around the crotch or butt area, but there are pictures and videos that at least going in their bands and putting money in there. You got one drag person do the full-on stripper split. Like, there were some. It wasn't a toned down drag show. If it was toned down, it was to the point where they weren't literally stripping, but they were still doing their provocative moves as you do in a drag show. The only thing I don't know much about drag shows, to be honest with you, so I'm probably sounding super ignorant here, and I acknowledge that. They weren't doing overt. I mean, it was overtly sexual. What I guess it's just because I'm not gonna sit here being like, I understand Doc's point. If they try to be family friendly by like limiting their actions or something like that, then it's a fair point. But from what I saw in the video, and that's why maybe we might need to pull one up, is it didn't seem toned down at all. Like, if anything, like it was a normal drag show. But I don't really know what goes on in drag show specifically. Yeah, it's just what I saw in the clips was like, that's an issue. I have an issue with that.
That's where my issue stands. Like, if
here, go ahead and pull up a clip if you can, Ian.
If it's basically like softcore or stripping, then I'm not cool with it.
Yeah, that's kind of how it felt.
But like, I've been to drag shows, and I know like sometimes they're just people that come out and they sing like a Nancy Sinatra song, and it just happens to be a drag queen, and then she walks away. Or like she maybe like passes around a jar to get tips and then she walks away. But like stuff like that, like I'm not gonna get all up about it, like uppity about it. You know what I mean?
Not on these specific issues. I'm kind of stuck over here because on one end, I get when people reference other things to provide perspective to their opinion, but it seems now, and that's something I do as well. So my statement might be hypocritical, but it seems now it's what I choose to prioritize as a problem. If that is not addressed, is almost used as an excuse not to address the current situation.
I agree with that completely.
And
that's how I
my
feel.
problem with it is when I say or reference things like that for other things, most of the time they're directly related, and most of the time there's almost a domino effect when it comes to how they're related. I'm not saying these two, the shooting or whatever, what's up, Ethan, are not related at all.
What's up, Ethan?
But when I hear it being said that way, it's almost like, well, deal with this after that. There's no argument for it not being a problem. And so that's always my thing. Like, I'm in the reverse because I'm always like, why now?
Yes, you see that.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's the opposite of this thing, which is deal with that first. My question has always been, why now? Because if it's why now, then we should get the whole house in order. But you can't be mad where I start cleaning.
I'm down for making legislation against pageants also. I'm okay with that. Child pageants, if they're under a certain age, there's just some things like child should not be doing, man.
No, I completely agree with that. I guess swimsuit portion for any type of child, anything is completely wild. And the fact there's organizations. And then, like, you know how history is, too, with time. Like, women used to be married by 13, 14. You know what I'm saying? Like, so to know that we've
had a lot of like weird mental like issues.
Exactly.
Like, you're used to being judged at a really young age.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think
that mentality.
As we advanced in society, I just thought we'd almost put up walls to prevent the things that we grew from reoccurring.
Because honestly, the same argument could be applied that they're saying about the drag show to the pageants, which is you're grooming, like they're calling them groomers. I think they said someone here, like the protests were calling them groomers. Same things that happened to the kids and the child, mainly the girls. I don't know about the boys one, but the girls, they're being groomed.
But here's a slippery slope then, because I completely agree with you. But here's a slippery slope. What is not grooming? Is any influence grooming?
Obviously, I mean, I think there's a point where it goes from influence to grooming.
Where? What would it be? Because like then the argument can be made that rap music or rock music are grooming individuals.
They do make that argument.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But is it influence or is it grooming? Because you may be influenced by something I'm doing independently. Grooming is me directly directing your growth or your...
I think also it depends on who's doing the grooming.
Okay.
Like if a parent grooms their kids, it's a little more acceptable because it's your child and you want them to be a certain way because that's my child. Like I want them to have certain ideals and morals, foundations and blah, blah, blah. Like that's my child. But when it comes to someone who has no affiliation to that child, that's when I think it's more viewed in a negative aspect of grooming, even though grooming I think overall is viewed negatively. But that's when it's obviously negative is when it's someone else, and I think that's the biggest issue.
To the point here,
because people I think are even calling the parents who brought the kids groomers.
That's what I was about to say. To the point,
that's what I was thinking.
They didn't leave the gay bar and go find the kids. Kids were brought to them.
Like there was a video of the parents trying to leave out the back door with the kids. I'm not sure if that's true, but they were trying to discreetly. That's the word. They were trying to help the parents discreetly get out, and obviously protesters and cameras are everywhere, and you just saw parents leaving the bar, which I'm pretty sure wasn't the front, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not with none of that shit, to be honest with you. But I was just saying, like, just reading that paragraph that Doc pointed out, is just like, yeah, when is it okay to do that? When is it okay to? You said they have to be directly related, okay? Like, when is it okay to almost stop talking about an issue because of another issue? Because that's essentially what the person is saying in that sentence. Like, y'all.
I guess that's how hard it hits against your morals. Because I see the point. Like, there's something bigger that they should be thinking about than this. This will be gone. Like, we won't talk about it in 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Unless, like, there's further things that come out of it. Like, or if there's legislature even gets passed, I doubt we'll talk about it later. That's kind of, like, the core thing that they're trying to get at. Versus, like, dude, like, you're just going to overlook this in the future. It's a hot topic right now. Maybe if it does get worse, then it'll stand the test of time. But I think once Pride Month ends, like they're not going to be hosting these things again. So I don't think it'll go by. And I don't mind parents like treating their kids to exposure. I mean, that's how you teach kids to.
This is
like,
an extreme level of exposure, but I get what you're saying. Are you seeing the video, Doc?
Yeah.
Come on now. Here, go ahead and put it in the tab, Ian. It's not like we can show this. If it gets to a point, then I'll edit it out, and unfortunately, hopefully, we don't get a strike on the live. So they're being held to receive money. As of anything crazy, there was a little bit of twerking earlier, and it was kind of like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
That's for me. That was a line.
Honestly, that sign is the most fucked up thing.
Yeah, definitely for sure. I'm trying to because you said action specifically, so I'm trying to watch that more. So like, the sign though the sign is insane.
The car ride home is insane.
The car ride.
Hey, Dad, what's not gonna lick itself?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man? Bro, I'm out, man. That nigga's tripping.
Exactly. That's what people are saying. Like that's a question kids are gonna have to ask and answer now. It's not gonna lick itself. What's not gonna lick itself, Dad? Mom? All right, this podcast is sponsored by Angel Blinds. Shout out Angel Blinds. It's a local business based in Atlanta, Georgia. Check them out. Their blinds help you get a new look for your living room, to your bedroom, to your dining room. They even customize kids' blinds with their favorite superhero or princess. Make sure you get Iron Man. He's the best. Shout out. With our promo code FDT, our audience gets 10% off their first purchase. You can find them on Facebook at Angels Blinds or their Instagram at Angels_Blinds. Shout out Angels Blinds.
The that performer, I don't think it was actually too bad because it looks like something you would see in an Ariana Grande like music video.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing that got me was the twerking. When you started twerking, and I was like, okay, that's a line for me.
Yeah, and the money thing is probably a little kind of whatever, but they've got to make their money.
I mean, you can argue too. The money part is also a little bit of the conditioning because now you're seeing what happens in the strip club.
Like you're conditioning them to the environment.
Nah, fuck that. I'm using the word they're grooming kids. I'm using that word. I'm on the grooming side, bro. That's another question I want to ask you guys.
So these people in here are definitely grooming their kids. But people
are also naming them pedophiles. Do you think they're pedophiles? The parents are pedophiles? That's the protesters. Like I'm trying to use the words they were using in the video, which was they call the parents and the drag kids pedophiles. These are people are pedophiles.
I think
probably
there's a whole
progressives, but they're not. I don't think they're necessarily pedophiles.
I think there's a whole new genre of people.
Yeah, I don't think those people went home.
Play
and
the video,
yeah, like I'm into this. Like
I'm not trying to be too nihilistic when it comes to this. I genuinely think, to Doc's point, like they're just super progressive. Like they just want to be how they see inclusivity and the whole term of progressive with, like, I think the point Doc was trying to make earlier, which was exposure, or the word Doc said, which is exposure. Like you want to, I don't know if it's wrong to say, you want to normalize this for these kids. But the issue that people are obviously having is the disconnect when it comes to the exposure, the blatant
the difference between
sexualization.
Exposure and promotion.
I don't know. I mean, yes, but I think for them is they don't understand. Like you're trying to normalize trans and like the LGBT stuff, but you're doing it through a sexual avenue. It's a drag show at a gay bar, like that. Like full stop. Like you should, like, right when you said, well, let's do this at a gay bar. Stop. It's a gay bar. We probably shouldn't do this at a gay bar. There's probably a better way we can help expose and bring these concepts to these children if that's the goal.
Also,
there's a better way to do this.
Also, kids like attention. And so if you like attention, right, and a kid does something and they see they can get attention from it, most of the time a kid will lean towards the thing that they get attention from. And so if you get all this attention, I'm not saying it's bad or disregard your children.
Can't say what I want to say.
If you're giving a kid attention, or they see a kid reacting or getting attention for being gay, chances are they're going to want that attention as well. So, I mean, I say that to say, I don't think every kid that went there isn't going to end up part of the LGBT plus community, in my opinion. But
they'd be advocates, they'd be supporters.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm not saying there is. I'm just saying, but if they don't at least become that, they'll be that instead potentially.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the idea. Like,
yeah, exactly. That's
lower the potential for maybe a
don't say violence,
person
please.
to grow up violent.
He said it.
To attack them or something like that, and just be like, oh, they're just a trans person. Like, leave them alone. Or if you like them, you like them. If you don't, you don't. Whatever.
Can I ask you a sincere question? Never mind, because I have not looked up the information to back up what I'm saying, like 100%. It is, in my opinion, that violence isn't the same way I said nobody really gets bullied for being poor. I believe LGBT people get bullied. I believe they're discriminated against. I believe all of those things.
But it goes to the point, I think even Doc agreed with me one time, is the prevalence of it.
The
especially
prevalence of the violence towards them. Now, for example, and it's kind of the same when it comes to, like, I guess with hate crimes and stuff like that, if you want to talk about that. But for example, if I get into a fight with a drag queen, is that considered violence towards them? If it was about, I don't know, maybe I stepped on their shoe.
So instead of two people fighting over a disagreement, it becomes you showing violence against
an LGBT person. So I'm not saying there's no violence. It's just people don't work the way that they make, like the way that TV portrays in the news. People don't work like that. Like, people don't just find poor kids to bully. Like, they just don't. But that's the way it's portrayed in all the movies, all the shows, all the stuff.
So it's like, people didn't go there to protest against transsexuals. They went there to protest against the children being exposed to drag specifically. And obviously emotions got riled up. Go ahead, say what you're saying, Doc.
Well, I mean, like, dude, to disprove you, or at least to to back up like my statement is that some people do though. Some people do go and attack another person not because of a disagreement or of an interaction, but just solely because of who they are.
No, I agree with that.
Like you had a guy in Buffalo shoot up a place just because the people there were black. There is a potential that an individual could just attack a group of people just because of what they are.
I agree. There was a gay in Orlando, the gay club. I'm completely right there with you. I'm saying I'm completely right there with you. But I'm saying the prevalence of it to be addressed. Like, for example, the guy who went and shot the black people in Buffalo, people are talking about guns, right? And some people are talking about, I guess, race. But race hasn't been the real conversation about all this stuff. It's been guns. You know what I'm saying? The issue was the issue. So, like, he used guns because he hated black people. But we can't do nothing about his hate for black people. But we can't say that he speaks for everybody either. You get what I'm saying? I can't say that that's the prevalent person is going to walk in, like the average white person is going to walk into a store and shoot 10 black people. So what I'm saying is I'm not saying the violence isn't there. I'm saying the violence within whatever group or demographic they try to portray, that we create, we go to such lengths. It's an overcorrection sometimes when it comes to these things. And I'm not talking about just gay people. I'm talking about with all things. Juicy Smoulier. Like,
well, so for an example, I think people say that if this is similar to the point you're trying to make is women fear going out at night because of being assaulted, correct?
Correct.
But the actual statistics show that that doesn't really happen that as often as they think it does. Men are at night are more statistic-wise to get any kind of attacked at night, not specifically sexual, but the odds of that happening are just so low, especially in America, that it's understandable why they would feel that way. But the fear is not; it's misplaced because the odds of that happening, it's.
I agree.
Would that be fair?
That's part of it. But I guess the simplest way to say it is all acts. Okay, so if we're gonna identify the person as LGBT plus in an incident that happens, don't just stop at the identification of them. What role did their identification play if you're going to make it about their identification? Don't just say, oh, an LGBT plus person was murdered and let that be the headline. Did their sexuality play a role in them being murdered? Was it? That's what I'm saying.
We talked about last week with the guy that
issue.
That's
the issue with like the difference in perspective.
Boom.
Like, yeah, when we look at the news, we definitely see the headline: "Black man killed by white man."
Facts.
LGBT person killed by a white man or whatever. Like, you always see the headline to do that, and that's what basically is the clickbait. But in the law, when it actually plays out, even though we'll be 2 months out and we'll be worrying about the next thing that happened. In the law, in the judicial system, they're actually doing what you're telling us, where they're breaking it down and seeing why these persons actually got into a conflict. Was there any like issues that previously happened? But we don't like.
I agree.
Honestly, the media is moving so fast, like it doesn't care to go back.
That's my point. That the judicial system isn't gonna like whatever they decide isn't gonna be what society actually moves forward with. It's gonna be the last high note on the song that we leave off with. And so my point to even defend the drags. To even defend them, to make a law that kids can't go to a drag show is also an overcorrection. Because like what? You don't get to tell people that. Like, I get it.
Like, it's up to them. I could vehemently disagree with it. Now you're impeding, because I forgot what I read, but they could potentially have child protectors take their kids from them. I think is an extreme thing I saw when they brought that up, and I was like, I don't like that. Government doing anything when it comes to my life and decisions, anybody's, I just don't like that. And I agree, it's an extreme, like it's extreme reaction.
It's an extreme reaction.
It's an extreme reaction. There's a conversation that we just need to have, and everyone, I guess the point I would make is politicians never let an opportunity go to waste. And this is an example of the Republicans not letting an opportunity go to waste. With Democrats and the gun thing,
that's
boom.
what I think that guy's doing.
I agree with that.
And now Republicans doing the same thing. I don't like that on either side. I think it's annoying. They're trying to pander to their base. Because right now, who's more upset with this? The Christians, people who have a religion, and because this goes against their morals. And who? But the kids look at they're having fun
too. So like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't do it. I don't agree with that. But it's not for me to make a law about also to stop other people who do agree with that. I don't believe everybody deserves children.
I got a fucked up question, hot take question. Then let's move on. Would you want your kid growing up with that kid? with those kids?
I wouldn't care.
Yeah, I
would
wouldn't care
believe
as
in
long
my
as they
home.
don't like.
I would believe my household was solid enough.
Also, as long as like they don't get into trouble where the person's not a bad influence on them, then I'd be like, all right.
I'd feel like I need to talk to my kids. Like, all right, you got some friends that experienced this. I don't want them to say something and have you have thoughts. So let's have a quick question, blah blah blah. Let's have a quick talk. And
I think
if
that
anything's
talk
said-
within itself is dangerous.
You think so?
Yes.
Why?
Because
I can see why. Actually,
you get what I'm saying? The complexity of it. Because now you're asking them to understand. You're asking them to understand.
That's why it's a problem for me because now it's got to be addressed because
it has to be addressed because if you. But see, it's almost impossible to address because you addressing it is asking the kid to understand the original topic and then understand the influence of it or whatever that comes with it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you're teaching two things. But are we even learned enough to be teaching these things?
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's very, very, very. It's like it's a conundrum.
I think I would pick their brain and ask them where they want to draw their lines, and then be like,
do they even know where at that age? We don't even know our lines where.
That's the thing, though, like,
and then talking to a kid at that age about sex, period, is wild as a conversation. Like I'm not talking like, oh, you shouldn't talk about. But I'm saying just like me personally imagining myself having a conversation with like a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old about sex.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Well, what do you? Okay. You have to define it. Like, are you talking?
So if I have
sex,
a 10-year-old niece,
gender?
If I have a 10-year-old niece, right? I'm talking not gender. No,
because that's the way I interpreted Gene's question. That like they're hanging out with somebody who is transgender. Are they actually talking about the actual action of intercourse, or are they talking about like their confusion of like their gender? Because then that to me would be what I'm like mostly gonna zone in on. Because I'm not gonna think that like they're 10-year-olds hanging out and they're plotting like intercourse and all this other stuff. I'm gonna be like, whoa, are you confused though?
No, I think it can't be about gender. I think it has to be about sex because as a kid, when you're that young, I don't think the definition of what you mean as trans or what you're attracted to is more what leads you to believe. Like as a kid, the first thing you have is attraction. It wouldn't be as a kid, I don't want my appendage because you don't use your appendage. Like you're not aware of what the appendage is for unless you're aware of the sex. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. Like if it's just a tool, but if it's just a tool for peeing and pooping or whatever it is, right? That's all it is.
I don't like peeing as often as
that has nothing to do with your decision to be whatever you decide to be until you know its uses. And then you define it. So I think you can't even get to the other one without the other.
Yeah, I definitely see where the lines cross. It just depends on like the angle. To me, I was thinking then to elaborate like the angle of the approach.
No, I'm with you.
How you would go into it with that conversation.
It's going to be a sticky situation no matter what angle.
For sure. Just to finish off with the whole exposure thing, I think like introducing kids to a drag queen or transgender, it does, in my mind, reduce the potential of violence because I always think of like that guy who did the Buffalo shooting and I'm like, maybe he didn't have like
a
really core black friend.
You mean you want me around?
You know what I mean? Like even if he had interactions that were bad of people within, a particular race, if you have one good friend that's of that race, you just immediately think of them and be like, it's not because of that.
Or you think he's one of the cool ones. He's one of the good ones.
It's the darker way.
No, it's not the darker way. It's the more reasonable way. If your mind is set on that already, you will use the logic first to fight to defend your morals, and then you'll second guess your morals. You won't let one black person change your mind about being racist. It'd take multiple. It would take multiple occasions. It would take different things. You would like, for example, and I've been in this situation before. If you set yourself apart, you might be described as an exception, but not even if the person is thinking it like racial. Like, for example, let's say I can speak to my job. Let's say I don't work in the warehouse, right? I work in the more corporate setting. There's a warehouse. The warehouse employees are mostly African American. There are only 2 black people in the corporate setting, right? Now, I interact with the manager of the warehouse. He's not my manager, but he's the manager of the warehouse. So he's the manager of the black people.
You're basically Dale from The Office.
I'm good, or whatever, right? When I talk to this person,
it's Dale, right, from The Office.
Daryl's from The Office, yeah. So it's not even him. So that would be a bad example. But
what an idiot!
But for example, if somebody were to come in, because if somebody were to come in, right, and they would talk to me and then talk to them, and then be like, oh, John, describe John. They might describe me by the most favorable trait. I would have done something that set my skin tone. I would have done something that separated me from those people. So it's, oh, John, maybe the guy who's in the anime or something like that, or the guy who's in this, right? Whereas that's a positive attribute, but the negative attribute would be attributed to the whole of the skin tone or the race, whatever race it may be, white, black, Puerto Rican, whatever it is. That's just how people work. So if I'm just have bad experiences with white people, or if I'm just racist towards white people, right, and a white guy comes up to me, I'll be like, oh, the cool white guy. And then another cool white guy comes up to me, but he's good at basketball. Oh, you mean the cool white guy that plays basketball? I'll keep adding attributes to those people instead of changing my thinking before I actually change my fucking thinking. That's how it works. It don't work one cool black guy? Got you guys messed up. My bad.
You don't think that one person is the seed that then roots out to like meeting actual groups of those people that are actually pretty cool?
I believe
would then change your mind. That,
I mean, everything starts with one, so it would be wild for me to say no. But I also think that one friend is going to be the guy on the interview who said, "I didn't see it coming. He was so cool to me. He had it in him." Like, you don't think that white guy had any interaction with any cool, positive black person ever in his life?
That's what I was questioning as well. But I do think there's probably more to it, like his environment, like maybe his father. Even though like he met one black guy, his father, like when he shut the door, the guy left, they'd be like, "Yo, I don't like him," or "You know what I think about them," and stuff like that. Like, you know, reinforcing the discrimination. Like he had some kind of outside thing. And
don't get me wrong, I'm not saying all people are like that. I'm saying people who have their mind set on that will fight with their morality. They'll excuse their morality as long as they can.
I do think though that like with the at least the exposure, you plant the seed. And I do agree though also with Gene that it shouldn't have been done in a bar. Like if they would have picked a hall or an auditorium hall or something like that and done this,
that was a home game.
Probably would have been a little bit more proper.
Yeah, something where the atmosphere wasn't so sexual, I guess. Like look at the environment, stripper poles, what they're wearing, and the act of giving money. Like
it's the lighting
and the lighting and the sign, like
fucking there's mist.
There's nothing.
Are we gonna say there's not
the sign?
Are we gonna say there's no mist in there? Is it a little misty in there? But also, question. Anyway, that's besides the point. But you know they smoke in the bars.
That's why I fully don't disagree with the whole pedophile argument.
Like it's for the community, and you have that sign up in the background. There's nothing you can put.
Like if these,
but that could also speak to
very at least a pedophile.
That you do
pedophilic tendencies, I guess.
Jesus Christ, Gene.
God damn.
But if you could, but it also might be a testament to the fact that they maybe don't feel like they have spaces in the public forum where they could be safe to even do this.
But this
I
is what
get you, but
do?
I'm just saying if I'm just saying if they felt the need to do it on home court,
why this?
Maybe they felt like they couldn't do it away.
Why this? All right.
Yo, thanks for making it to the end. We really appreciate it and hope you all enjoyed the show.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button, that like button, and the notification bell to get notified when we post our clips.
Follow us on Twitter at PodcastFDT. Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok are all fake deep thinking. Check us out, please.
FDT. Peace, y'all.
Peace.